Make sure that all of this is turned correctly. I gotta say, this has been a pretty lousy week in the grand scheme of things. And I'll explain that as we progress through the stream, but I'll just start this off by saying that when you get to a point where you feel like you're on what's a good word for it? Hamster wheel. It could be anything. It could be looking for employment, talking to chicks. Objectionably, you'll have people who, even if you relate to them, this like constant loop of nothing changing, they repeat the same couple of parts of advice where they tell you to, oh, keep trying, keep making sure that you're going out there and giving effort. And it's basically I've realized the encouragement that people will give is a way for them to repeat a pattern where they basically just kind of don't really have anything unique to say that's well thought out. So they just respond with what they've been encouraged to respond with, which is trying to motivate someone without any particular reason for them to get motivated. So I had a master plan this week where I was going to put out this Dragon Ball video I had scripted about a week ago. And it was a very unique video in the sense that it's about the relationship of two of the characters that I thought had a lot of promise and was talked about pretty heavily when it first came out or when these two characters were first seen together. And I was going to talk about why it was good, how it got screwed up, what they could have done to fix it, what they can still do to fix it. But as I was sitting here scripting it out, I became less interested in doing it. Of course, I still plan to release it at some point, and decided to instead do the Why Oog Was Wasted video, which was a lot easier to do because that's a character who only really appears in maybe 9, 10, 15 episodes across all three of the different shows that he's in, or technically two different shows in that, one page in Super's manga. And I just kind of went around looking on YouTube to see some other Dragon Ball content that's come out within the last year or so, because I get curious about what other people are doing. And I've never mentioned before, but I have a couple of things I don't like to do when it comes to discussing that series, which is I don't like doing chapter reviews or episode reviews because they have very limited rewatchability, meaning that once it's the following week or a new episode is out, people generally ignore that review. This is why when the Galactic Patrol Prisoner arc in the manga eventually wraps up, I'll do a review of it where I'll just go chapter to chapter within the review. It's kind of like a full-fledged discussion about it without breaking it up into individual chapter reviews. This way it elicits more people to click on it and feel as if they're getting the entire thing versus admittedly detailed but broken down discussions of individual parts of it. But as I continued looking around, I saw there were a lot of videos where people were, like, oh, what if this happened? And one could make the argument, if I'm being very lenient, that when I did the Baby Gohan video, I was basically doing like a what if. But the point of doing the video was not to give an indication of, oh, this is how this would play out. It was to simply say that I think the story would have objectively been better if this route had been taken instead of taking a character, what they did end up doing, who had been evil multiple times in the past or antagonistic, and making him antagonistic again. It was me basically saying that if they had turned this other character into the permanent host, it would have been more original than just doing the same character evil for the third time. But when I looked at this stuff, these different like what if videos, they get in the territory that kind of starts seeming really ridiculous. Like you had one video where somebody said, what if Gohan and Goten were born at the same time. And I'm just thinking to myself, you're trying to tell me that I should be remotely interested in a video about two characters that were created several years apart to where it would have never even realistically been a thing that the creator of the manga could have employed. Meaning that this is literally just you saying, hey, wouldn't it have been cool if the writer came up with this character several years before he actually did? And I just don't get the appeal of that stuff. But as I was sitting there and I was looking at the hundreds of thousands of views on this material, I kind of had my mouth become agape. You know, it just kind of fell to the floor. I was like, this is really what appeals to people. You know, not discussing what a character's role is in the show, how it positively affects the story, if they're used well within some respective season or saga or arc or period. No, it's just taking random events and throwing them at some other part and then being excited because, oh, look, I changed the story up a little bit. So that was my biggest, I guess, disenchantment outside of the thing with the VAs, where basically one of them had a missing line for one of the episodes, and I've always said that I don't get mad when people have missing lines because it's human error. People make mistakes. What I do get mad at is depending on how long it takes for them to correct that error. Um, this line, for example, is one word. And it's been several days since I said, hey, can you do this? And I've heard nothing back. But again, it's not the issue of them not doing all of the lines, because it happens sometimes, you know, people make mistakes, but rather how long it takes them to correct that error. I'm just saying that because there are a lot of people who like to twist my words and go, he got mad because somebody didn't want to do a line or whatever. It's not me getting upset over the mistake. It's how long it takes to fix it. Because I just don't think it takes that long to do one line. You know, that's just my opinion. People can say it's incorrect, but as someone that usually ends up having more lines than everybody else by virtue of the amount of people I play in it, I kind of have my doubts as to whether it takes several days to do a one-word line or not. I think it's an informed opinion. But yeah, so that person, you know, won't say anything back. But I said, you know, whatever, I'll just do this other one. And I realized there was actually another person who basically, again, human error. They sent me the same series of lines twice with a different name. So they basically, the mistake they made was that they sent the same thing twice, thinking it was two different sets of files. This was a mistake that was pointed out to them very late last year. Again, late last year, meaning it's been 7 or 8 months since this happened. And I, you know, messaged them. They said they would record the stuff, and they never did. So I don't know whether they're going to, if they do it, at what point they plan on doing it. I gotta say, it's really, you know, being on here is effectively akin to being a hamster on a wheel. You know, when I've seen several times when you have content creators who express displeasure where they are with respect to the amounts of people that show up to their stuff for content, and you'll have these people who will get upset with them for, you know, daring to say that they're disillusioned with how things are relating to their channel. And I could never understand that, because if someone makes something and they don't like the reception to it, I don't see where it's bad for them to merely say, hey, this didn't go the way I wanted it to. Case in point, there was a guy who announced at the start of this year that he was quitting YouTube, and he had 100,000 views in this video. And the whole comment section was riddled with people saying, I've never seen this person's channel before. YouTube's algorithm is so bad, you know, womp, womp, womp. And I didn't cast any doubts on their claims because I'd never heard the person either. And they actually were talking about something I was really into. I go in the comment section and I see this comment that's like this big. And it's somebody saying, uh, you should have done collabs with bigger creators, and you should have posted on Twitter and on this other website and over here. I mean, it was just this massive comment riddled with blaming that person from Monday to Sunday for why their content was not doing as great as they would like. And I said, if somebody makes a good video, just a video that you think is good, that the person who makes thinks is good, and people don't watch it, is that really their fault? I mean, I could, for example, today decide to make, I don't know, another account on Twitter where I actually post stuff, and I could post a link 3,000 times across the whole website. But just because I post a link 3,000 times doesn't mean it's going to get 3,000 views or 3,000 people to click on it. And that's not going to be because I didn't try to promote it. It'll be because people chose to not watch the video. But this is one of the biggest failures of modern discussions, or discussions that happen on this website, because they're not about actually looking at the problems relating to something. They're just trying to find ways to blame the person who's making the content for why it's not getting as much traction as they would like. Case in point, I had a stream about maybe 3-4 weeks ago. Person I've never seen before. They're in the comment section, rather the chat, and they say something to the effect of, if you get a better camera, catchy thumbnails, they just start, having verbal diarrhea, right? And this isn't, I'm not dismissing their position because it's antithetical to mine, just on that premise of being, not the same view as me. The highest viewed, like when you tell somebody that they need to have catchy thumbnails, this is somehow going to be of benefit to them, and their highest viewed video is literally just a still from the video of them speaking, I don't think it's really that crazy to see where I don't buy that as being the actual reason that other stuff is not doing as well. And I've said before, the camera on my phone is much better than the one on my computer. I don't use it during streams for 2 reasons. One, because it's a lot harder to position it than my computer. And secondly, because a lot of times when I would do streams in the past, they would get interrupted because occasionally you'll have someone who will call me while I'm streaming, and then it messes up the video. Like it cuts the video off. So it's very difficult to get me to believe that, just getting and also this is the main reason. I actually occasionally go and check out the views on stuff I put out during the week, and it gets significantly less views than when I stream. I'll see 20, 30 views for, some video I did on my phone, but then if I stream on the crappier camera, it gets 2 or 3 times as many, which still isn't that much, but I'll take, 90 over 30. That's very simple, basic math to me. But the point of bringing this up is to simply say that when you can prove that videos with the supposedly worse camera are doing better than the one with the better camera, it can be reasonably inferred that the better camera has no actual impact or way of changing the course for whether this person's other stuff gets views. But like I said, these are, these points were made during the stream, and I realize people, they don't care about facts, they don't care about logic, they don't care about whether you can actually prove something isn't the case. It's just, let's spam a whole bunch of reasons for why something is a certain way, and then we'll make sure to bury whatever concern you have in that. I'm going to do a video at some point, maybe this week or next week, and it's going to be one of the, hopefully the last ones I do that mentions Triple L. But I was going to discuss how when I had my second call with her, the first one was really decent. It was just a general topic thing. But when we had this second call, which was the first one where we actually discussed the romance situation, I almost stopped talking to her. And the reason for this is because I don't expect every single person I meet, just obviously, to have the same view on the romance crap as me. But I think if you are able to have a position that is based in logic or fact, it's a lot more respectful than me just simply saying, this is how I feel. To hell with what you can prove. Screw you. And, it's like I had this text message conversation with her where she's apparently reading all the different stuff I have written, in response to her inquiring about the chick saga. And when you have a person whose response to hearing a man detail his different encounters, when that person's response is, well, you're only this age. And it's like, what is the point of me having a dialogue with someone like that? And I'm going to, again, do a separate video about this, but I've never, in the entire time I've spoken to people, when there is a dissenting opinion, whether it's on a show, politics, whatever the hell, I have never used a person's age against them for why they're making an argument. If the person has bad points, they have bad points because they have bad points, not because they're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. But this was something she did. You hear me mention, hey, this crap has been going on since 2011. Oh, well, you're only. So I just said to hell with it. That's why she had to basically approach me to get me to do a third call with her, which was slightly better. But again, we'll discuss her full range of ridiculousness at another point. But she follows a really consistent pattern with a lot of the other people I see that are not part of my what's a good word for it, inner circle, where basically there is this built-in bias. Like I've said before that I think the reception to opinions that I have would be a lot easier if I was abroad, because I see so commonly chicks that'll, I guess, I don't want to say suffer, but experience some similar things to what happens to me in a couple of cases, like especially with, the school stuff. And it's really weird because when they talk about it, whether it's in real life or, and to be fair, I'm not around these people all day long, but I've seen this happen where they will discuss having difficulty getting employed. They'll discuss not being able to afford going to school, crappy partners that they've had. And people will listen to them. They'll say, hey, this is screwed up. They'll say, this is wrong. And they'll say this is wrong without blaming them for why it turned out the way that it did. And, that's why it's very difficult for me to accept a lot of these like opinions that I think are by design antagonistic to me. So for example, we had a person who got yanked the second time they showed up because the previous time they had shown up, they had tried to blame me for a person who's scheduled to speak to me about a job, saying that, so the context is it's 5 p.m. I'm getting something to eat. This person calls me about an application I put in. They ask me if I'm busy. I am honest in saying I'm, getting something to eat. I'm in the process of having it in my hand as I'm answering the phone. And they say, that's fine. I'll just call you at 1 p.m. and we can, reschedule and talk about it. So I said, hey, cool. But 1 p.m. the next day comes. They never call me. I call them about an hour later because I'm thinking maybe something has happened. I don't know. They don't answer the phone and I can't leave a voicemail because their voicemail box is full. So in a scenario like that, where this person scheduled to speak to me the next day, they said, I will call you at 1 the next day. These are their words. I'm not speaking in riddles. This is plain English. It befuddles me where that's my fault. Like, to have that person hear that and then their response is, maybe this, I don't know what you would call that person, interviewer. Maybe this interviewer thought that you weren't serious because you said you were getting something to eat. But then why the hell would they schedule to speak with me the next day? As what, to troll me? But this is why I said that the positions on here that people espouse are not backed by reality. Like, I don't see where an objectionable person, whether they like me or not, would look at that particular situation and say, that's your fault. But this happens on here. And it's like with anything I discuss, there's always this weird um pushback enemy kind of viewpoint when I discuss something. And I just don't understand it. Like with the chick thing, right? I said, okay, maybe people do that because they are so caught up with wanting to get abroad that they basically just want to make sure that they don't admit any of their faults or bad choices that they made. Because I said, maybe if I mention something else, right, that isn't about getting a partner, you can get people to look at that situation and say that's really screwed up. But it was not the case. Um, I talked about the VA situation before, but that all boils down to two things. My position has been this since I started the project 4 years ago. If someone needs an extension of time to do something, to record stuff, I will give it to them. And the numero uno stipulation that I have is that they keep in contact. They let it be known to me when they can or cannot record things. That's the only stipulation. So when I have a member of this group who says that I'm going to push people away because I'm asking them to do something at a certain time, which is very small work. It's literally one line again. And they try to cite that I've had like certain characters played by like 5, 6, 7, 8 different people. When with each one of these people, and I can still prove it because of the fact that with every one of them, I speak with them mostly through text, that I always said, hey, if you need more time to do this, let me know. But if I'm giving those people the time to do this stuff and their response to that is to walk away completely, to not only walk away, but not even inform me that they're leaving, it's very difficult for me to objectively, excuse me. I'll take the blame for my English gaps, grammatical errors. But it's hard for me to look at a situation like that and say, oh, yes, that's the director's fault. He's the reason these people have chosen to not be reliable and to jump off at whatever point they feel was necessary. God, it's just such a tiring, but that's why I said it's like being a hamster on a wheel, where you try to make something or do something, it doesn't work out, and then you take all the blame for it, even if it required multiple people for it to fail or to not go the way you wanted it to. I really thought that people, like with the chick thing, right? I said, look, the sheer number of broads is so large that not only can I not remember how many it was, but I don't think any reasonable person would say every single one of those times is my fault. But you have people who do that. It was very weird to me to see supposedly straight men talk about the way I look, especially when I never said I was pretty. But I thought to myself, here I am. I put my face on here because I'm not ashamed of the way I look. But I guarantee you, if I was able to get pictures of every single broad I ever tried to get with romantically or talk to or whatever, 99% of the men who saw all these different pictures, all these different broads, would find multiple ones that they didn't think were pretty. And you're not wrong for thinking that. It's fine to have a differing opinion on whether you think someone is attractive or not. I just wish that the same kind of logic would be applied to the reception that was made toward my appearance. Meaning that if there are multiple chicks that I spoke to that you didn't think were attractive, surely we could flip it back and say, well, if you're saying this person is ugly, does that really mean that they're going to just never find anyone because of the way they look? That's the predominant factor or a major factor, that all these chicks all have like the vagina hive mind and think this person's hideous too? Really? But again, those attempts at common sense are not practical. And again, I thought maybe this is just people online being jerks, because that's what we do on here. But when I spoke to Triple L, and because I really hated that stupid age thing she kept trying to say. So I basically forwarded or tried to respond to it by saying, if you had to be a certain age to get with the broad, which spoiler alert, you don't, um, why the hell did I have classmates starting from the time I was in, I think, sixth or fifth grade, that had relationships? Like it doesn't make sense that you can claim that someone's age is a factor in whether they're able to get a partner when you have people who at various ages have been able to get partners. Her response to this was, so, maybe some of them were more outgoing, and basically it's again another antagonistic position of, oh, you just didn't have the right personality for it. But again, this is the same broad who admitted that she believed I behaved in a different way, because I mentioned this has been an issue for me since I was 13, which was the first time I ever approached a broad. She admitted that I act differently than I did, almost a decade ago. But if I acted differently or act differently, and I'm getting the same response from chicks, and that means that no matter what way I acted, I would have had the issue regardless. And the point of saying that is to basically get this person to realize it's not about me as an individual. When you see multiple men on these websites talking about this nonsense of having to approach some ridiculous, several dozen chicks to get a date, it's not about that, one man being not good enough. But unfortunately, there's just too many people who basically, don't care. I don't know who this is. Let me go look. Focal. Oh, I haven't seen that person in a while. Yeah, I was just looking away from these comments. Well, that's the point, Envoy. I'm not even going to bother looking at the chat. I'll say hi to Envoy. I'll say hi to Ruben. That's it. Because that asymmetry person keeps changing his name, and I don't want to offend him by calling him whatever his moniker of the week is. But yeah, it seems like no matter what happens that is not positive towards me, I get blamed for it. And look, I have no problem with taking responsibility for things that are actually my fault. So there was a person who critiqued my show, and they were like, oh, the voice actors. And I was like, well, I mean, I can't really control that if these people are going to not be emotive or whatever. So that's that. If you have a problem with and they admitted they found my voice to be very expressive, distinct in the different roles I had. So I said, okay, do you have a problem with the story? No. I was like, well, then how is it my fault for these other people not doing it in a way that you think is emotive? And then, there was no response basically. But it's all part of this pattern where you are not allowed to do something without having to take, if not all of the responsibility for it, then the blunt of it. Almost in its entirety, even if it was the decision of multiple people. But look, stuff I'll take responsibility for includes, let's say I don't put a video out that I say is coming out this week. Okay, that was my fault. Something else. Just things that I can actually control. But when you're talking about dealing with broads, getting employed, it's like, this is very simple logic. If a person applies for position over and over and over and over and over again, and they don't hear back from 9 times out of 10 of these different places they're looking for work from, that's the fault of the employers. This person is putting this thing in all of these people's hands, and they're not doing anything with it. The same thing with the chicks. If a guy goes up to a broad and he accepts her for who she is, he thinks she's attractive, he's willing to move to wherever she's living, whatever. He's trying to negotiate with her to get in a relationship with her, and she pulls the rug from under him and says, I only like you as a friend. I don't see where it's the man's fault for that attempt at getting a date going south. I even mentioned this before. I had a broad who literally apologized for ignoring um, my attempts to speak to her. And then a few days, what was it, maybe a week or two later, she came on one day referring to send me a text message, and she's like, "I've gotten through what was it, thinking and whatever, and I don't want to have a relationship or pre-relationship with you." And basically, I even said in the title, meditated her way out of relationship. And it's like that was her thinking about this and deciding to basically tell me to go to hell. Uh, in spite of how often I tried to speak to her, in spite of how much I tried to um, either appeal to her or negotiate, whatever you want to call it. But the basic theme of this stuff is that if the man is willing to do it and the broad isn't, then it's the fault of the broads. Like right now, I could have a broad approach me and say, let's go on a date. And if I say no, I'm the reason that didn't happen. Because it takes two people for it to start. And if you have one person of that pairing that says to hell with that idea, it's not going to happen. But again, people, they refuse to think of things in that kind of manner. They just basically say, this is your fault. You're the issue. I'm going to discuss this group as well, but there was a Discord server I was in over 2 years ago. There's a video I'm doing on this guy who was a snake. And I'm going to mention how in this server, there was a group of people who became aware of my, romantic issues or whatever. And they said I was selfish for not talking to chicks anymore. And like, I couldn't comprehend how this made any sense whatsoever. But the way it was broken down is that I was putting my self-interest above the broads by not wanting to do what they were like trying to do or something. And it all boiled down to me like this. Whatever relationship these chicks want to give you, whether it's friend zone or maybe I'll call you once a month, you just take it. To hell with your dreams, to hell with what you want to do. Just be grateful that she acknowledged you in this particular way. And think of how crazy that is. Like if you go, I've seen some people compare getting relationships to jobs, which is crazy as hell because you actually need jobs to survive, and relationships are just, frivolous. But it's like if you go in for an interview and they ask you what wage do you want, you say the minimum wage, something that is not ridiculous, but also at the same time is a common occurrence of people working the minimum wage. And after you leave from the interview, that person says, well, you can't get a position that actually pays you, but you can come in for an internship. Like what normal person would be okay with that? You're trying to work there so you can be able to afford your lifestyle, not because you enjoy the fresh aroma of wherever this building is. It's really not that difficult to comprehend why the hell a man would not want to talk to broads anymore, especially if he thinks that no matter how many of them he approaches, they're going to find ways to think their way out of doing anything with him. But like I said, none of this stuff is about listening to what I'm saying. It's just, let's get like a little snippet of his point, and then we'll try to frame it in some manner to make it seem like he's been doing all this stuff so incorrect and he doesn't know what he's talking about. And like, who enjoys talking to people like that? Listen, if you want to have a debate about something, conversation, at the very least, and this isn't even just about relationships, but in general, don't come from a place of misinterpreting what the person's saying on purpose or trying to make it seem as if they don't know what they're talking about. This was the same thing that happened with that Fighters game. All I did was say I'd like a bigger roster, and I had people bringing up BT3 and saying that I wanted 100 and 200 all this crap that never came out of my mouth was just suddenly expunged or puked out by these people who wanted to defend this game to their dying breath. It was the weirdest thing in the world. Like, damn, just cult mentality. And it's not even just that. It's people purposely misinterpreting or not wanting to hear what you're actually saying. Megumi says, I noticed that shortly after joining. Hope you're good as well. The runner-up for the Green Party nomination is currently begging, helping sabotage the Green. Yeah, well, that's stupid on their part. Let's see. Well, I mean, I'm just kind of like I'm in a position with the chat where I mean, the whole point of doing a stream was so people could interact with the person who's streaming. And it seems like if I interact with people during streams, when I actually post videos, they just kind of, all pull the vanishing act. So I just said, what's the point of even bothering to read the chat? I'm just going to do like the rest of the YouTubers on here. Except I'll be even worse because I won't even read a super chat. I'll just ignore everything. I told you about that one day I did a video. It was a stream, and this is like right as I started turning the ratings off. But I looked at the rating one time, and it was one upvote, one downvote, and I had like this one troll comment. I was like, it's sad that the troll pays more attention to engaging with my stuff than the people who apparently like it. I said that's a really that's a sad day. But again, if you criticize or indicate that you're not satisfied with the way that anyone does anything on here, you're accused of being ungrateful, and how dare you ever question the actions of the people who are on this stuff, basically. And really, that's just kind of the way that all of this seems to be going. You criticize the chicks. Oh, you're upset because they wouldn't screw you. Even if you say repeatedly you wanted in the short term a date, in the long term a relationship, marriage, all kind of stuff that is well beyond just a one night stand, you still have your point misinterpreted. You still have people who say, that's why I said that people online are like snakes. Even if they're not poisonous, they still bite you. They still try to cause you pain. It's too aggravating to, I guess, try to, like reasonably interact with people at this point. Oh, because I think I'm very lenient on a lot of things. I give, for example, as I mentioned earlier, the VAs a bunch of different extensions, and all I ask for is that they communicate, and that's because I've had people join this stuff just to jump off without saying anything. But it's so sad when you try very desperate, because this is basically like how this is going. You give people breaks. You are told to understand them, to treat them in a way that is humane, whatever. And then everybody else gets to treat you like trash. And whatever goal or dream or interest you have gets pushed all the way to the back burner for this other person. Just get the hell out of the way. Enjoy being ran over by everybody. And really, that's kind of the life that people want for men. Just be the doormat. Just be ran over and stepped on and thrown aside. And they're doing this with everything. If you go out and apply for a bunch of positions, whatever they give you, you better take. Like you go to these interviews, these people smile in your face. They're doing all the little laughing. Nothing that would routinely make you think, oh, I'm the person who's at fault here. And then when you don't get the position, what do people do? Well, you must have said something that they didn't like, and you probably were talking about da, da, da. It's a purposeful attempt at making you seem like you're the worst person in the world, so all of the ridiculous stuff that happens is your fault. I mean, think about it. We have a situation with the voice actors where I'm in the position of giving these people as many breaks as they want, extensions, whatever. And I do that because I understand what it's like to work or go to school while also trying to do some, long-term project, whatever. So I do that because I come from a place of understanding that people in their lives have multiple things that are happening, whatever. It's, again, you're the position of trying to understand those people. But then when they don't want to record stuff for months or any extended period, that's their way of saying, hey, I get that you understand my issues, but to hell with the thing you're trying to make, to hell with your long-term goal. Let me just run you over. That's what that is. It's the same thing with the chick stuff. The people on that server weren't mad because I went around stabbing or raping broads when I just decided I'm not going to talk to them anymore, because I didn't do that. All I did was simply say, hey, these people continuously are not showing the result that I would like. So instead of going down some weird, ridiculous vagina obsessed path, I'm just going to leave them alone. That's all I said. And that was enough to have people on that server try to say that I'm supposedly doing something to this group by leaving them alone. I mentioned this before. I've never done a full video about it, but the reason a lot of chicks get like murdered and raped is because there's some man that won't leave them alone, and he obsesses about them, and basically, what's a good word for it? Feels like if he can't have them, nobody can. And I said one of the few silver linings of getting turned down over and over again is that it makes the value of each individual broad just drop to the bottom of the barrel, because when they start playing that same pattern, that same script, and they erase any actual distinction, you lose any reason to remember them for being different from each other. Like, I might mention Triple L repeatedly, but that's just to make a point. I don't go on her pages. I don't look at any picture I might have had from her from the one time we met in person. I know how to walk away. And I thought that was a decent enough conclusion to the romance stuff. You stop bothering with the broads, but you discuss it here and there because it's still something that you think is really ridiculous. And there are people who actually have an issue with me just saying, hey, I'm just going to disengage. I mean, they have more commentary on me saying I'm done than they have on people that are actually doing something to these chicks. Like, you have rapists, you have men that murder broads. They don't get people writing paragraphs on this website about them like I have. And I think that's really weird. Like, I have never once sat back and seen some man say, I'm done talking to chicks, and been motivated to spend an hour talking about it or write a novel about it in their comment section. And most of the people doing it are other men. I would think they'd be happy, more for me. But this is why I said that people, they react to things in ways that I don't comprehend, because I don't see what I have to gain from reacting in that type of way. Just like with this rape thing, right? You have people who get, they accuse all men that get turned down of just wanting sex, because, we cannot have any legitimate grievances or long-term wants that repeatedly get shot down because chicks say no over and over, right? But, for example, they say that a lot of men just want to get screwed. And I said, well, I could just get a prostitute if I wanted, to do it in some legal way, or some, way that was not like, that's why I say go to Vegas. That was my, thing I repeatedly would state. But also because I just don't think any vagina is worth going to jail over. Like, you can show me the most beautiful broad, and if she says no, just move on. There are a whole bunch more that are attractive. I know there are, because I approach so damn many of them. But that's why it's weird to me, and this is why I'm not part of any of these groups, because it's the same. Whenever these groups get discussed, it's the same thing. He's not getting screwed. He's not having sex. When I started mentioning the dingbat with the baby, I thought it was really funny. I only ever started mentioning her after she had a kid. When she was with her little stupid boyfriend and they were banging each other's brains out year after year, I couldn't care less, because it was just a stupid thing that two people were doing to each other, two adults, that didn't have any long-term negative consequences for anybody else. But then these two poor people made another person who they've, before it's even born, ruined the life of. And I thought it was really insane to watch that happen with two people who likely never thought about having children, or certainly didn't plan it out, when I had spoken to several broads about doing something like that in the long term. And I got told that a million different reasons why they weren't interested, whatever. But it's like, so the only way to have a kid now is to just screw some chick until accidentally, pops one of these out, because we know that condoms apparently don't exist anymore. That's the only solution. If I ever did like a autobiography or anything, I'm probably just gonna call it Hamster on the Wheel, because you just keep running, like on YouTube. What do people say? Oh, make some videos, make some content. I remember I actually had a guy who, because he mentioned briefly that he didn't watch all of my stuff, but he did a video where he was talking about, not video, excuse me. He and I had a video call where he mentioned that one of the reasons he didn't watch all of my stuff was because of its length. And this was one of the reasons why I had purposely gone out of my way to do it like this. You have a couple of videos a week that are an hour long, which are the streams, and then you put out stuff during the week that's much shorter. And the idea was that I don't reasonably expect someone to have an hour every single day to dedicate to watching crap I made, but that if this other stuff was much shorter in length, it would encourage that person to think that they could watch all of the stuff in 1 week. And that's been completely incorrect as far as the view ratio between a stream and then also an upload. So basically, even if people cry about something being too long, they're still apparently less likely to watch something that is much shorter. But again, I'll still get blamed for why they didn't get views. Oh, you didn't put the catchy thumbnail on there. Because people don't care. No one is actually trying to have a discussion based in reality about any of these issues. They just any way you can blame Justin, we're gonna do that. If he does a video where he puts a bunch of editing into it and he shares it on 2 or 3 different websites and it gets like less than 100 views, well, you should have shared it 20 times or put ads on TV or a billboard. If he talks to some broad for months who says that she feels such a connection with him, but she just wants to remain friends. Well, you should have told her that, you wanted to put your banana inside of her, and that would have made her realize that you wanted to be more than friends before you spoke to her. It just never ends. If he applies for over 120 jobs and he only ever hears back, or rather gets an interview from one place, he hears back from a couple of places, but they don't actually go through an interview. Well, you should have applied to 300, and you should have, made sure that you put a gun to their head to make them hire you. It's never the fault of the people who choose for things to remain the way they are. And nobody gets why that's crazy. And I'm also, this will just be another thing I'll just repeatedly say, but I look at it like this. I have expressed interest and actually done things to try to get employed. I've expressed interest and done things to try to get in a relationship. I've expressed interest and done things to try to get more views. Basically, the way I look at critiques of those particular things that seem to make it seem as if I'm doing something wrong, the way I look at it is you're trying to blame the one person who's trying to change things for why they stay the same. This is why I have not been receptive to people who say it's your fault for not having a degree when I was price gouged out of going to school. I mentioned that the school I was accepted into, this public university, wanted 12 grand, and I'm sorry, I didn't have that 2 years after high school. I don't think any non-rich person who's not supported by relatives would be able to do something like that. But I was still blamed for that anyway by Triple L, and she got what was coming to her by getting cursed out. It's a running theme. That's why I did the stream the most blamed man of all time. And I'm not trying to make myself sound grandiose, because there are people who have probably been blamed as well. But it's just, anytime there's an issue or something doesn't go the way you want, even if it's up to someone else to determine if it's going to go that way, you get blamed for it, especially if you're a man. I watched early on your old video. Yeah, well, I don't even remember what I said in that video. It's so old. Mm. Yeah, here's I can give you as well, no, they wanted, this was 2 years ago. I was 20 at the time. They wanted 12 grand. And I was, and like with this raw, oh, maybe if you had asked your parents, it's like, Bimbo, I asked these people multiple times. I had at least 6 or 7 different conversations with 3 people that, as a collective group, because I'm not going to ask one person for 12 grand. That's stupid, even though I know that 2 of them had that. But I asked a particular group of these people, 2 of which I know damn sure could have afforded together, especially if they split it, and they still said no. So, like with school, and this is what gets on my nerves about that. If I flunked, if I, let's say, did not graduate from high school, right, just as a hypothetical, what would people say? He didn't graduate because he didn't study or he didn't go to class. They would say something that has to do with my academic performance. With college, you couldn't afford it. And you didn't finish not because you're dumb or you didn't feel like studying. You wouldn't have gotten into that school if you didn't study. So I've never seen a scenario until getting to college where now it's not enough to actually pay attention to the material of these courses. Oh no, now you have to be a pseudo millionaire and be able to dispense thousands of dollars every year. And yeah, it's like, really? What they wanted you to do is take a loan with interest. Well, that's why I said that it's a scam. Like I just, and this is, and I'm not saying this to disrespect people who have graduated, but I did not see a scenario, and I still don't see a scenario where I go back and I actually get more money than when I came in. Like it just seems like it's a scam, like it's a pyramid scheme. Oh yeah, go to this school so you can get a job that will be able to pay you, and you'll be able to make it. Blah, blah, blah. And then as you're there, whatever you already have, you're having to take away while accumulating debt. And then when you get out, you've got this giant anchor on your legs where you can't even do anything. But again, like people, they don't care. They just say, oh, it's your fault. What did you want a degree in? Political science. I don't really know how that's relevant to this, but whatever. People ask all kinds of weird questions. Hell, the first person that commented on the stream just 2 weeks ago asked me if I had ever been inside of a broad. So that's what the online sleuths do. They're invasive to me and you. You're lucky they were just asking for no. Envoy, the full story is they wanted 30 grand and it was cut in more than half by me with the grants that I had at the time. And then when the lesser amount needed to be paid off by other people that kept saying, I will help you, they chose not to. But again, that's still my fault anyway, because, I'm supposed to be able to pull this giant wad of coins out of my backside and then, things magically are going to improve. Or is it just lesser university? I mean, I don't regret going because I'm not, what's a good word of putting it? I basically proved to myself that I could be in college and also not be in debt. So I don't regret going because I was very serious about my education and got screwed over. And I still have the same clowns from 2 years ago every now and again mentioning they want me to go back. I'm like, with what money? Like, are you crazy? It's like, please get in debt, please. Studying is for a year or two. That's what I tried to do, Envoy. I was at community college for 2 years, and I got into a university, and they wanted that ridiculous sum of money, and I said, to hell with it. But that's my fault too. Yeah, Megumi, who has 30 grand? Like a lot of people, we went over this before. Most people in the U.S. live paycheck to paycheck. That's a ridiculous request of damn near everybody in this country, let alone someone that's 2 years out of high school. But no one cares. Especially not, the people who claim they feel they have empathy because they experienced the same thing, which is why they're going to blame you for not having the proper wording when discussing the, seriousness of this issue with grown people. Everyone I knew attempted that, but ended up dropping out of community college instead. Well, I didn't drop. Well, or rather, I did drop out because I couldn't afford it. But I was able to get, and I still have the email if you don't believe me, because I know like I can't be trusted on anything apparently. Yeah, it is rigged, Elliot. It just feels like a lot of this stuff is rigged. Ugh. And I guess what bothers me, right, is that I don't really have a problem. Let me see what this is. Was created for the elite. Oh, James, episode. I saw your comment. Well, I saw that your name earlier. I didn't respond to it. 42 should be out at the latest by Tuesday. So, because I know you've been waiting for a while. No, I don't know when 43 and 44 are going to come out because I have to, like, I'm trying to figure out when this person is going to do this missing line for 43, but this other person still hasn't done their stuff for 44, so it's vague after that. Mm. Honestly, it's a damn scam. You'd be in debt having to pay off that well, Megumi, that's what I was saying. That I actually, and people never give me credit for this. No one ever wants to admit this, but I actually think about the long term of stuff. I do. That's why I don't have a criminal record. That's why, I don't get involved with doing drugs or any. And it's fine if people want to drink or smoke or whatever, but I don't see where in the grand scheme of things any of that is going to help me. And I don't claim to be some great genius. I just don't see where a lot of these things that people claim are so enjoyable and wonderful or really have any long-term benefit for anybody. Teaching both to learn a trade, they need a skill, they want to have a degree, that's fine. Envoy, I end up having to do a what if I was a parent video and basically just run down how people ruin their kids' lives. Because most of them aren't even born because people want to be parents. They just screw and then, oh look, I thought not wearing a condom was funny and now I'm knocked up. Higher education, higher the price tag. Yeah. I mean, I don't know anybody that can afford this stuff by themselves. Like even my best friend, he goes to school in another state. He's only able to go because his parents paid for it, which isn't a dig at him. I'm just saying that all this crap about you need to take accountability and responsibility and blah blah blah, that's done by a student when they're able to pass the classes that they take and get into these various schools. But the responsibility shifts from them to the institutions when they see these ridiculous price tags that even people that are in some cases 2 or 3 times their age still couldn't afford. Talked about you need to pass a test and to drive a car, you need to be a certain age to drink. In some places, you need to be 21, but all you need is a hard shaft and willing vagina to have a kid. Yeah. But the kid thing, I always mention it because I really do hate, and this is why I said I'm not part of any of these romance groups. I can live with, never getting married, uh, whatever, any of that, any just thing that directly has to do with me and some chick being intimate. But the idea that I can't give a kid a better life because some broad determines I'm not good enough to screw, I just think it's stupid. Especially when you look at the people who have kids. Like I did a whole video about broads that murder their children. And they don't murder them because they had them in there and like, oh, they just eventually get disgruntled. They were crazy to begin with. They were poor clowns who were only anything worth the piss to anybody because of what they had in between their legs. And everybody knows it's true. But again, because I don't have a vagina, I've got to, do all these different hoopty hoops. I got to jump through a million hoops, like that. I'm telling you, if I was a chick, I could be poor. Hell, I told you that the one that had the kid less than 3 years before was actually homeless, and it wouldn't matter. Hell, if I was abroad, I could actually do a video exposing all of the different like VAs that get on my nerves, and people would defend me. They'd be like, "Oh, she's been working so hard on her show, and she got tired of people treating her production in a bad way, and we'll have to excuse her for putting out all these people's information." They get away with everything. Envoy says, "What annoys me is not." So parents who may pass on some ideology as bad, for example, mother that tells her kids it's okay to lie, that's whatever. It's more so parents who can afford kids to. Yeah, you get rewarded for being an idiot, alongside abusive parental relationships, especially among step parents. Like I said, there is no. I just don't see a reason why people like that should be able to reproduce. But then someone like myself who goes out of their way to make an environment that is not akin to that, people pretty much give me a middle finger to the face when I speak of this aspiration that is much deeper than screwing abroad. They get away with pretty much everything due to having a clit. If it has a clit, we'll defend it. Yep. And I'm tempted to do a video on like 10 women I actually will defend, because like it would basically say that I'll defend people if they're in the right, not if they have a vagina. Because when you talk about the romance stuff, they call you sexist every 5 seconds, even if it's not true. Ideological slash was it man slash woman? I'm up to my eyeballs in debt and can barely pay my own way. Let me know if let let me bear an offspring. I will name. Yeah, they're dumb. I think Ruben left. He got pissed. I didn't read his. I think his first comment that he wrote. I mean, I'm just tired of stuff. Really, like you can only put up with being treated like gum on the back of someone's shoe for a while. Uh, like I wish I got more views. I wish there's a lot of stuff that just should be different than the way it is. It really sucks. Mm. I don't know who Joe Mo is, but it's not the day. Well, Envoy actually said, after saying I'm giving my thoughts on what's happening in life, hope is good. It's like, does this stuff sound good to you? It sure doesn't sound good to me. Well, like with the DB stuff, it's just annoying because I really do feel like when I do the videos, I write out a script. In a couple of cases, I've tried to have unique art to it, and just when you get 30 or 40 views or whatever, some that's under 100, and then somebody makes a video about what if this character had a STD and it gets thousands, you're like, what the hell? Like I don't get the appeal of that, because they're not even trying to have a. Oh my god. So I said, I can't make stuff for those fans. They don't. Me and them don't vibe. Well, like I said, whenever you seek employment, you have people who still will blame you. Like, I never thought I'd see the day where there's two schools of thought. The position you get's not going to be able to, pay enough or whatever. So don't even bother with it. And then two, it's your fault because you did something wrong. Like this person told me to lie on the application. And I'm like, you dingbat, if you actually take 2 seconds to read instead of just having diarrhea of the mouth, you'll realize that on the application they said that if you do not tell the truth or we find you're lying, we can terminate your employment at any time. So why the hell would I risk that? Like, but this is what I'm talking about when I said people, they're not saying things that are based in reality. They just spit stuff out and then hope whatever it is sticks. Even some of my family tried to indirectly blame me for not being able to get employed. Yeah. Okay. I knew I shouldn't have read the chat. I was going to get annoyed. I'm going to give a brief, because I really think Joe is not a troll. He's just saying random stuff. I have a series of videos, Joe. They're called California's Excrement Employers, where I show the positions that I apply for. And on a number of these websites, they actually tell you what positions you need, say, a year or two of experience on. And you know what I do with those positions? I don't apply for them. So if the employer never lists those requirements, they must not be there. Seriously, when I was applying for Pizza Hut, for example, they had a general manager. They said you need 2 years. I didn't bother with it. Like I don't. This is my point. I don't play fights that I know I'm going to lose. It's stupid. That's why I don't go on any of these broads with millions of followers pages and go, "Oh my God, you're so nice," because there's no chance of or reason to even talk to someone like that. Yes, Envoy, exactly, dude. They act like I'm trying to be CEO of Microsoft. Like, what the hell? So I said, people don't listen. I really feel like there's a segment of people that see my stuff where when I speak, again in plain English, no riddles, whatever, they hear that Charlie Brown noise, the womp 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 womp. Well, I've been very specific about the circumstance I'm talking about. I tuned in late, that's why. Again, I'm just sick of getting blamed for like this. We'll go back to what I said earlier. I think it is an oxymoron to blame the one person trying to change things for why they stay the same. If I just sat here and didn't apply anywhere and people want to say I was the reason I wasn't, I would, all right, fine. That makes total sense. You won't see me contest it. If I didn't approach any bras, people are like, oh, you wonder why you're not with it. Yeah, okay, fine, completely. But, I can't look at what I did and what these people didn't do and then say, if only I was able to do this. The worst thing, like Justin says, is not even hearing a reply shaking my head. It's so damaging. The other worst thing is that they actually have the option to not say anything if they don't want you, and they'll still say something to confirm they don't want you. What was that? Trader Joe's did that to me where they were like, after looking at your thing, we determined that blah, blah, blah. And then you'll go online and you get websites like Snagajob, whatever. All these places are saying, apply over here, rush over here. And then for nothing. And then you'll have some idiot who tries to play the game like this is the new game of Connect. Well, because you're not employed, you can't get a woman. Like, but idiot, you don't need to be you damn sure don't need to be employed to be in a relationship. Because that bimbo with the kid, again, 2 years before she had the kid, she had the very brilliant idea of quitting her job and was with this guy for months without being employed. So that's another lie that people tell you on here. At this point, people are just going to have volunteer and hope they get their travel and lunch covered. I've also been feeling disappointed because the rejection from jobs took my brother 3 months of applying and interviewing to get a decent job offer. Yeah, but this all goes back to what I was saying about how people have to get to a point where they actually start thinking in a practical way. No one should have to apply to over 100 positions in even a year to get a job. That's ridiculous. No one should have to talk to 90 chicks to go on a date. That's insane. And people have ways of justifying this to themselves. Well, when you get to this certain age, you'll feel very grateful for all of the experiences that you had. No, I don't. But again, it's all about blame dude or the person who's experiencing it. Yeah, Marky, one more comment like that. I'm not in the mood. You're a man. So I would strongly endorse and recommend that after asking another man if they have had sex, you never call that person your man again. There are certain, dare I say, homoerotic overtones on a comment like that. Just saying. Pro tip. How are you supposed to have work experience to get a job when somebody can't get a job to get the experience? Well, that's why I said I'm the hamster on the wheel. Like there are people who said if you don't approach a woman, it's part of a self-fulfilling prophecy where you say you can't get a broad, so you never get one. Well, if these people never hire someone as a collective, all these different places, then they create the prophecy of never hiring that person because no one wants to give them that first position to get experience from. Oops. Oh, I know. No, Envoy, it's all that's why I said it's the hamster on the wheel. This is every month with let's do 30 applications. Hear back from none of them, but try next month. 30 more. Oh, we finally got an interview. Oh, this guy is saying that they've got 4 open positions. This is great. What, 50 people are applying for it? Oh, well, I guess I'll just have to apply somewhere else. Just over and over. But like I said, you can apply this to all the different stuff that's been discussed here. Um, the broad thing is very similar, except again, it's not something that you actually need. So the job thing is much worse because that's people literally playing with your life. Um, but you can take those two things. They're very similar in that where people say do this and then you can never do any of that because you're stuck on that same base part. The worst job in America, I'd say construction because that can do a lot of damage to you physically. That's why I try to stay away from looking for that. Oh, that's another thing that they have in common. If you exercise any kind of standard for what position you would like, people say that's why you're not going to get anything or what. Like if you say I'll work any position as long as it doesn't require me to lift ridiculously heavy stuff that can hurt my back, that's why you're never going to get a position. If you say I don't personally find this one broad attractive, that's why you're never going to get in a relationship. So because you said this one woman was not attracted to you, you don't you deserve to be single for the rest of your life. That one broad, because you didn't find her appealing, to hell with any prospect of you finding a partner that you actually like. And because you didn't want to do this one type of work, even though there's all kind of other ones, there's drivers and all kind of crap. You don't deserve a position. You're too picky. Just from that one time you said no, your fate is sealed. Mm. So I said people on they don't care. They just say random stuff. Because it's not about understanding a problem. It's just finding a million ways to blame, again, the one person that's trying to make things different for why things stay the same. You do a video. People don't like it because you stutter. You write a script. People don't like it because you didn't put music in it. You put music in it. It gets about the same number of views, and now you're demonetized. Thanks for playing. Any job for Amazon. Yeah, they do treat their employees like trash, just like Walmart. You can't win for losing, man. Well, that's why I did you remember that one video? There's no winning in romantic rejection. You can apply that to everything that has been discussed here. Or hey, we should do a second. No good deed goes unpunished. Remember, I told you I did that one stream on the VA that uh, recorded some stuff for me, and then as a token of my appreciation, I didn't send them any more scripts because I didn't want to overburden them, especially with not knowing when I would get to work on this separate project I was doing. And then that person, after our last dialogue was very pleasant, and they thumbed up my comment, whatever. Uh, Unfriends me and then blocks me after I ask why they unfriended me or try to like send another friend request. Again, after our last conversation and dialogue was apparently all pleasant. So I said, no good deed goes unpunished. You can't win for losing. And then my sole act of revenge is just not using any of the stuff she recorded because, you know, that'll be my revenge tactic. Ever thought about investing in the man? I'm not playing that game. I need a 9 to 5. I'm not about to sit here and talk about Bitcoin. And yeah, I even had one guy who was crazy enough to tell me about taking the stuff on here serious. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but no person on YouTube, and you can get mad about this, you can unsub, you can go run somewhere else. No person on this website who doesn't have a minimum of 100,000 subs should be saying anything about taking this seriously. It's just not stable enough for you to for that risk to be worth the piss. I don't know why Envoy put his comment in cap locks, but whatever. Neo coins, yeah, I'm not doing that. Sorry. Ugh. Let's see. This comment here is from an email address, and it says, "I'm a young, sexy, romantic girl looking for sex and ready to get primal and have some fun. You will definitely enjoy my services. Lip K is and shower for two, oral without condoms, sexy lingerie, new 69 style and licking, also touching BBBJ plus BJ, no condom, and kissing me and touch me, shower together, and F word your own style. I want to provide you with an unforgettable experience. I told you every couple of days there's a new stupid bot sending me a message in my email or on my phone. And I'm just like, it's so sad that what was supposed to, like, the whole point of talking to chicks was to get a date where you might actually like the personality of the person that you go on this, hypothetical date with, and then eventually get married, have children, whatever. And that went from that to now getting blamed for why it didn't progress as you continuously tried to appeal to these people and receiving a bunch of spam messages from bots that think you're stupid enough to not know that they're little contraptions somebody made in a room to send to a bunch of different numbers. How terrific. Not really disturbing. It's just another stupid message that I keep getting, thrown my way. I don't have a Cash App. You see, I have gotten hundreds of those bot accounts on my. Yeah, they're everywhere. Oh my God. Damn, Joe. Hey, we can end this stream on a funny note. So to answer your question, Joe, I am not in Illinois. I am in California. And a friend of mine decided to go to school out of state. So it's like a thing. People I know go to school out of state. But he told me about how when he came to a certain state, he thought maybe the chicks are different. And he was very disappointed to get the same result. And guess what state he went to? You don't know? I'll tell you. Illinois. I mean, this fantasy that if you just go to a different state, you're going to meet these chicks that act so radically different. I mean, I don't get where that comes from. But again, that's another one of those things people want to, trick somebody into believing. Once you go to Florida, you'll meet broads who are so attracted to you. Once you go to Illinois, you'll have chicks that'll let you stick your private parts in them, boy. I spoke to a broad from Trinidad, acted the exact same way as the ones from here. Like, people really need to quit doing that because it's just another, false hope. Still nowhere near as awful as the boss pretending to be. I thought you said Palpatine. Palestine and Yemen advocacy accounts that regularly ask you to donate to GoFundMe. Yeah, I hate that. Some babes, some clowns. Oh, by the way, that stream I did on Monday about the guy on Wikipedia. So what happened was they put sanctions on him where he couldn't edit articles about Harris and some other people. And then in response to that, he edited and this is, again, I don't like him, but this is kind of like he has a point. He edited the page where all you do is post people's names with the source of where they, said whatever they said. And they said that he violated the sanctions, so he got blocked for a week. Most likely, Envoy. I probably should stop streaming because that's the only time my subs actually comment. They just ignore me for the rest of the week. They say to hell with him. Yeah, it's a really sad thing. Megumi got so disturbed, he stopped writing comments. He was like, "That's enough for me." After hearing that read to him. When did this come about? Sex. Um, oh, that's because of that stupid bot that messaged me. I already said anyone who thinks I'm trying to get some broad to get screwed is an idiot, but whatever. Like I said, that's why I don't like being considered part of those groups because they just lump you like other people's opinions by default become yours. That's why they want you to be part of those groups because there's no individual reason for why I could have a problem with chicks other than just not being screwed. But again, those kind of things are done to dehumanize me as a person. So if Megumi, let's say, wanted to be, I don't know, some broad's husband, and I don't know, just as an example, something that has to do not actually do with screwing for the most part, they would say, Megumi admits he's part of this group and they just want to have sex, and that's why he's mad. Getting those emails constantly can definitely get frustrating. So I said, if you identify with those groups, you're part of a team, and their positions overlap yours. Justin must be working really hard to get screwed, even though he said that's not his main goal. But since he's part of this group, it's definitely his main goal. People don't care. Well, about getting things, correct. Go to Korea to meet some chick who in that psychic feminist cult over there. Oh, psychotic. When you said psychic, I start thinking about Sabrina or I don't know, Jean Grey or Professor X. That telekinesis. Yeah, James, you gotta be part of a group. You gotta be on someone's crew. Then again, if you speak on this topic, people assume you're affiliated with those groups nonetheless. Like, really? Well, you remember, Megumi, I don't put any of their names in like the tags or none of that stuff. So it's really weird to see them basically try to make it seem like I'm actually. I mean, Marcus, you can use the super chat if you want. I'd have to go look, Marky. I don't remember each place off. The only one I remember was what was that, Pizza Hut, or was that somewhere? The one that I did 30 places for. That's the one that really sticks out because the whole point of doing that was just to show they have 30 different stores and only 2 or 3 of them want to say anything. That's crazy. That means 10% of the time, or rather 90% of the time, they don't want to say anything. 10% of the time, they want to waste your time with pretending they're interested. I think there's a decent girl somewhere out there. Just find a person with similar interest and a good personality that is kind so you can both enrich each other. I'm not trying to mock Joe, but I think I might end up having to take like a whole group of just messages. No, I applied to Burger King before, and they haven't said anything. The one place I heard back from was a bakery, as far as like actually doing an interview. Now there were 2. I think it was there was a pizza place, and then there was somewhere else that like 7-Eleven or something. Joe, I'm sorry, but a lot of these relationships are not about enriching each other. It's the broad getting everything, and you just have to accept whatever she gives to you. And thanks, Marcus. Tell Tim I said hello. And yes, I know nobody's going to get that reference. That's referenced his last name. Explain the rise of homeless people. Oh, explains the rise of homeless people. Yeah, a lot of homeless people are looking for positions, but they don't, nobody says anything back. So I said it's just like all you do is, if you're a man, you get blamed for everything. Even when people don't hold up their end of the bargain, I couldn't believe someone actually found a way to like this situation I brought up earlier. That lady calling me at dinner time and then saying she would call me at 1 the next day and then bailing or not actually, living up to what she said. I couldn't believe someone actually found a way to blame me for that. Oh, that's crazy as hell. I was referencing yeah, they're referencing the director. Let's see what was written here. Where are the California homeless people staying at during the pandemic? Well, apparently in hotel rooms under Newsom's crap that he signed. I think it's really sad that you have to have a deadly virus going around the house, people. Like if we didn't think you might have this virus, we would just say to hell with you. We don't care if you get stabbed at night because someone is trying to mess with you, just whatever. Yeah, you have to be part of the romance crew. But yeah, if I do like a video or some kind of like long term documentary on myself, it's just gonna have a picture of a hamster on a wheel because that's all this is. Apply for positions, hear nothing back, keep applying. Maybe one of them will do an interview with you. They laugh and smile in your face, and then you either hear nothing from them after the interview, or if you do, it's them saying no, thank you, and then get blamed by people for being the one person actually trying to change the situation. Same thing with the chicks. Talk to broads, get some phone numbers, get some other ways of contacting them, speak to them for 2 or 3 months, listen to them babble on and on about how you're so special to them and you mean so much. And then after asking them if they want to go on a date, have them either say they just want to be friends or say you don't want to speak anymore. Usually the former, so they'll ask to be your friends and then you say no thank you, move on, and then you get accused of being just there for sex, even as you say that you want to have a family and get all this other stuff that has nothing to do with that, or very little to do with that in the grand scheme of things. Post videos, get a couple of views, get told that you only get this many views because you don't have a certain thumbnail, even though your most viewed video has no thumbnail. It's got thousands on it. This goes on and on and on, never ending. The cycle of blaming the one person trying to make things different. That constant cycle feels inevitable. It is. I mean, like I said, when you recognize something's a problem and then the other people around you are just like, to hell with it, you can't change it unless they eventually snap out of it. Like Megumi, realize how disturbing this is. Until a broad says, I want to get married or go on a date, you're just stuck having to approach and approach and approach, or just say to hell with it. Like there was a person who was like, oh, don't you feel bad that, the chicks are different? Like, dude, if I have a pattern of year after year, you talk to me, you get nothing out of it other than, some friend zoning and all that trash. Like, it's just, you can reasonably infer that because the year has changed, the people are still the same. That in spite of the year changing, the people are still the same. I still haven't done that video, that magic romance here, where all the broads are going to apparently suddenly be interested in me. Because I still have that screenshot of Triple L and she was talking nonsense. Like, I've never seen someone who apparently is not deaf just like the stuff they write to you. It's like they didn't even listen. That's why I say a lot of times when I write or say something, what's actually being heard is a womp, 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 womp. They just like to turn their brains off. It seems when it comes to this, yeah, people don't want to think critically about it. You're the reason you don't have more views or subs. I mean, I don't really care about getting more subs because I know that most of them don't even watch the majority of the people they're sub to anyway. But nobody has control over either of those except when you go out and buy them. I think I might actually do that. Just go buy some views. Like, oh my God, his video got 1 million on it. What happened? Nothing. No one was tampering with anything. Hey Ruben, why do I get less views than TYT? Give me the answer. What magic unique thing are they doing that's so attractive? It can't be that they've been around since I was 4, posting stuff on the internet, and would theoretically have a larger following due to being around longer. So please explain that to me, because I know you're into that political stuff. It certainly can't be they have more integrity. That's a and no more alive. That's like saying that an ant is a yellow jacket wasp. That they have more integrity than me. So please explain that. Did you do any promotion like Reddit? Oh, to hell with Reddit. Reddit was only good for when I was talking to stupid broads. I can't even look in my own DMs on Reddit because it's a bitter memory. Stay away from that site. But what I think is funny is I've actually seen some of the people on here who are large. They don't have to post on those other websites. Now we call this one guy called Reddit Scam It because they got broads that try to talk to and all that. I already told you I did a I Hate Wikipedia video, but I'm gonna eventually do a I Hate video on all those other websites. There's gonna be a I Hate Discord, why I hate Discord, why I hate Twitter, all of them. Everyone from TYT is super rich, and most already have ties to the media industry prior. Yeah, but you get what I'm saying about being around longer actually means something. I don't know. It just feels like I'm in an endless cycle with this stuff. Like I wish people would stop pretending that there's something more I can do. Because the only time I ever saw myself getting more views was when I was just posting, like I did on Twitter. You just post the same video over and over and over. But who has the time to do that? So. And then it's the same pattern. Oh, this person sounds so smart. I'm going to sub to them, and then they vanish. Always wonder why some people are so popular and others are not. I already said it's because I don't have a set of titties, but whatever. Gatekeepers. Reddit tripe. Reddit tramp. I like the Piscord name. I'm using that one from now on. Despiccord or something. Just that was a good name, Piscord. I've been on Instagram for years and only have 120 followers. I had 2,000 on there, but I got sick of it. Like that website bores me. Oh, let me post a picture, and then out of my followers, maybe 1% of them will thumb it up, and then we'll just keep playing this stupid game. So I left that behind. I don't even use it other than to see what other people are. The same thing with Twitter. I don't use them. I just use it to access. Like I don't post anything. Yeah, like a snowball effect. People flock like sheep. They see the high amount of likes and views. Yeah, views get more views. Wish people would realize that. Did a video with the hop sitting in his lap. Oh, definitely. I mentioned this experiment before of paying some broad to do, like, basically I'd write a script and she would read it on camera for a week, and then people would be like, who's this? I gotta find out who this lady is. All these people just flock out of nowhere. Hey, that'd be funny if they're like, why don't you have 1 million subs? I'm like, I'm the wrong gender. because none of these, like most of these websites are just aimed at doing stuff for chicks. Like there are a lot of dudes who watch broads, and I didn't know this until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They will have some broad making a video where she's talking about just whatever, right? Crap I don't personally care about that somebody else likes. They will turn the audio all the way off and whack off to her as she's speaking. Like, and I guess maybe I'm not used to doing that because like, what's the point of watching a video if you're only going to see the video but not the audio? But isn't that weird? Like, why? Because like my thing is, there are porn websites you can go on and see that kind of stuff. So what is the point of coming on here and seeing? I just don't get the appeal of that. Some fully clothed broad going, and you're like, oh, oh, blah, blah. Maybe if we wear a breast costume as an experiment. I mean, hey, you want to try that? Be my guest. Yes, I would pay to see that. Maybe some video footage, getting phone numbers, and having conversations with them. Oh no, because then they're gonna be like, "You recorded me without my permission." I told you I don't use pictures, voices. I only use messages because those can be written by anybody. I'm not trying to expose these people. Well, that's the reason I don't bother with that. Anyways, I'm about to get off of here because I've discussed enough issues for today. I mean, there's always an exception to the rule. I've seen a lot of channels where people just like put animals in front of the camera or kids, and I'm just like, really? We're not watching because you're saying something profound or well thought out. You just put something that people think is cute in front of the camera, and they all just jump at it like they've never seen a baby before or a cat. You know, it's weird. But people, they like their strange stuff. So whatever. Um, I'll put up, I'll do a stream probably tomorrow, definitely on Monday, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm just tired of getting blamed for things that are out of my control. So if someone doesn't watch a video, it's my fault. If someone doesn't want to go on a date, it's my fault. If um, someone doesn't want to hire me, it's my fault. I mean, it's just that gets tiring after a while. But like I said, just on that wheel, going back and forth. I mean, it's lame. And one other thing is that people have actually, in their attempts to give advice, said, "Oh, just stop talking about views, stop talking about the checks, stop talking, and it'll get better." I have never, and I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm ridiculously old, but I have never seen a situation get better by pretending it's okay, by not talking about what's wrong with it. Like, imagine if people gave you that advice for getting employed. Oh, just don't say anything. Don't go on any of those employment websites. Just sit in your house and someone will knock on the door and wait to get like it. Real life does not work that way. You can't be reactionary if you're trying to get something accomplished. You have to be assertive in making things move. And the only time that they can be forced to not move is when other people are assertive in trying to reject or deny you from getting what you want. So if I was just reactionary and I didn't approach any broads, the criticism of my role in it would be hold a lot more weight. But the assertiveness of chicks to not do any romantic stuff is why I said, hey, they ruined it. The employment thing, if I just sat at home and didn't bother, I haven't seen Duel in so long. I hope he's all right in that hellhole going down in New York. That virus is awful. I'm not calling New York a hellhole. I'm saying the virus is. I don't want any misconceptions. Anyways, reactionary would have been me just sitting here and not applying and then assertive was actually going out and applying, and then the places were assertive and not saying anything back, just completely ignoring me for the most part. But again, I've never seen a situation get better by people pretending it's not bad. I'm about to snap on these Well, just think in the long term. What are the benefits of snapping on them? Like, if some broad pisses you off in person and you punch her in the face, is it worth going to jail? Like I said before, there is not a single vagina on this planet worth spending a day in the slammer for. The closest, maybe, if I were to really think about like who would I like, just in any hypothetical situation, maybe if someone touched, like if I had a daughter or something, maybe that. But outside of that, no. So that's why I don't. I just stay away from these people. But yeah, I'll do some tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. So I hope Duel is. He says I never leave my house nowadays. Good. I mean, whatever it does to keep takes to keep you safe. So thanks to those who showed up. I wish Duel had shown up earlier because he's been vanishing. He's been like launch, but whatever. It's fine. So see you later.